Question 1. Market research demonstrates that customer satisfaction is a key driver of repeat business. A customer at an Alimentation Couche location is expressing significant dissatisfaction with a product they purchased, claiming it was defective. The store manager is under pressure to resolve the issue quickly to avoid further disruption. Which of the following approaches best reflects a sound decision-making framework in this situation? Option A. Engage with the customer to understand the specific nature of the defect, review store policies on returns and exchanges, and consider a resolution that is fair to both the customer and the company. Option B. Politely inform the customer that all sales are final and no refunds or exchanges are possible, regardless of the product's condition. Option C. Escalate the issue to a regional manager without attempting to gather any initial information or propose a solution. Option D. Immediately offer a full refund and a complimentary item without further investigation to ensure customer retention. Correct answer is D. Immediately offer a full refund and a complimentary item without further investigation to ensure customer retention. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing immediate operational needs with long-term strategic goals and adherence to Alimentation Couche's internal decision-making framework, which implicitly aligns with general business ethics and responsible corporate conduct. The pressure to quickly address a customer complaint could lead to a hasty decision that overlooks potential broader implications. Careful judgment is required to ensure the chosen solution is not only effective in the short term, but also sustainable and ethically sound. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a structured, data-driven decision-making process. By gathering all relevant information, assessing potential impacts, and considering multiple solutions, it ensures that the decision is well-informed and aligns with the company's values and operational objectives. This systematic evaluation minimizes the risk of unintended consequences and promotes consistent, fair treatment of both customers and employees. This aligns with the principle of acting in the best interests of the company and its stakeholders, which is a fundamental ethical consideration in business. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on appeasing the customer without understanding the root cause of the issue is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to setting a precedent for unreasonable demands and could mask underlying operational problems that need addressing. It fails to uphold the principle of fairness and could result in inconsistent application of policies. Another incorrect approach that involves making a decision based on personal bias or a gut feeling without objective analysis is also professionally unacceptable. This bypasses the established decision-making framework and introduces subjectivity, potentially leading to unfair outcomes and a lack of accountability. It violates the ethical principle of impartiality and can erode trust within the organization. A third incorrect approach that involves deferring the decision indefinitely without any action is professionally unacceptable. This demonstrates a lack of initiative and responsibility, potentially exacerbating the customer's dissatisfaction and creating operational inefficiencies. It fails to address the immediate problem and neglects the duty to make timely and informed decisions. Professionals should use a decision-making framework that involves clearly defining the problem, gathering all relevant facts, identifying stakeholders and their interests, brainstorming potential solutions, evaluating the pros and cons of each solution against established criteria, including ethical and operational considerations, selecting the best solution, implementing it, and then reviewing its effectiveness. This structured approach ensures that decisions are rational, justifiable, and aligned with organizational goals and ethical standards. Question 2. Process analysis reveals a recurring discrepancy between the recorded inventory levels of a popular beverage product and the actual physical count at a specific Alimentation Couche store. The store manager is aware of this issue, but has not formally investigated its cause, instead opting to periodically adjust the inventory records to align with the physical count. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action for the store manager to address this situation? Option A. Immediately adjust the inventory records to match the physical count to maintain accurate reporting for the current period. Option B. Assume the discrepancy is due to minor shrinkage and make a note to order slightly more of the product in the next cycle. Option C. Implement stricter security measures around the beverage cooler and monitor employees more closely for potential theft. Option D. Initiate a thorough investigation into the discrepancy, starting with reviewing transaction logs and conducting a detailed physical recount, and escalate to a supervisor if the cause remains unclear. The correct answer is D. Initiate a thorough investigation into the discrepancy, starting with reviewing transaction logs and conducting a detailed physical recount, and escalate to a supervisor if the cause remains unclear. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a common challenge in retail operations where a discrepancy arises between inventory records and physical stock. The professional challenge lies in identifying the root cause of the discrepancy, which could range from simple human error in data entry or counting to more serious issues like theft, damage, or procedural breakdowns. A hasty or incorrect resolution can lead to inaccurate financial reporting, poor inventory management, and potential loss of product. Careful judgment is required to balance the need for accurate records with the practicalities of operational efficiency. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic, multi-step investigation that prioritizes accuracy and adherence to established company policies and procedures. This aligns with best professional practices in inventory management and financial accountability. By first reviewing transaction logs and then conducting a physical recount, the process aims to isolate the source of the error. If the discrepancy persists, escalating to a supervisor for further investigation and potential policy review is the appropriate step. This demonstrates a commitment to due diligence, transparency, and problem-solving within the organizational framework, ensuring that decisions are data-driven and compliant with internal controls designed to prevent loss and maintain operational integrity. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately assuming theft and initiating disciplinary action without a thorough investigation. This is a regulatory and ethical failure because it violates principles of fairness and due process. Companies are expected to have established procedures for investigating discrepancies, and jumping to conclusions can lead to wrongful accusations, damage to employee morale, and potential legal repercussions for the company. It bypasses the necessary steps to confirm the nature of the problem. Another incorrect approach is to simply adjust the inventory records to match the physical count without understanding the cause. This is a failure in operational control and financial integrity. While it resolves the immediate discrepancy, it masks underlying issues that could lead to future losses or inefficiencies. It fails to address the root cause, which is essential for effective inventory management and preventing recurrence. This approach prioritizes expediency over accuracy and accountability. A third incorrect approach is to ignore the discrepancy and proceed with business as usual. This is a significant failure in operational oversight and financial responsibility. Ignoring discrepancies can lead to a gradual erosion of inventory accuracy, impacting purchasing decisions, sales forecasts, and ultimately, profitability. It demonstrates a lack of diligence and a disregard for established procedures designed to safeguard company assets. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing inventory discrepancies should employ a structured decision-making framework. This involves 1. Acknowledging the discrepancy and its potential impact. 2. Following established company procedures for investigation, starting with data verification and physical counts. 3. Documenting all steps taken and findings. 4. If the cause is not identified or the discrepancy is significant, escalating the issue to the appropriate level of management for further review and guidance. 5. Implementing corrective actions based on the identified root cause to prevent future occurrences. This systematic approach ensures accountability, accuracy, and adherence to operational and financial best practices. Question 3. The evaluation methodology shows that a regional manager at Alimentation Couche has identified a trend of declining sales in several key markets. While preparing a quarterly performance report for senior management, the manager is aware that certain operational efficiencies implemented in the previous quarter have positively impacted profitability metrics, even though overall revenue is down. The manager is considering how to best present this information to highlight the positive aspects of the company's performance. Option A. Seek guidance from the company's legal and compliance departments to ensure the report accurately reflects the financial situation in accordance with all applicable regulations and accounting standards. Option B. Focus solely on the revenue decline to signal the urgency of the situation to senior management. Without detailing the profitability improvements, Option C. Consult with the sales team to frame the revenue decline in a way that attributes it to external market factors beyond the company's control. Option D. Emphasize the improved profitability metrics in the report, while briefly mentioning the revenue decline as a minor, temporary fluctuation. The correct answer is D. Emphasize the improved profitability metrics in the report, while briefly mentioning the revenue decline as a minor, temporary fluctuation. Explanation. The evaluation methodology shows that Alimentation Couche, as a publicly traded company operating in multiple jurisdictions, is subject to stringent regulatory oversight concerning its financial reporting and disclosure practices. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts between business objectives and regulatory compliance, particularly when faced with pressure to present favorable financial results. Careful judgment is required to ensure that all disclosures are accurate, complete, and comply with applicable securities laws and accounting standards. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes adherence to regulatory frameworks and ethical principles above short-term financial gains. By seeking clarification from the legal and compliance departments, the individual demonstrates a commitment to understanding and upholding the company's obligations under relevant securities regulations and accounting standards. This proactive engagement ensures that any financial reporting decisions are made with full awareness of legal implications and ethical considerations, thereby safeguarding the company's reputation and avoiding potential penalties. An incorrect approach that involves selectively highlighting positive financial data while downplaying negative trends would constitute a failure to provide a true and fair view of the company's financial position. This could be considered misleading or deceptive under securities laws, potentially leading to regulatory investigations, fines, and damage to investor confidence. Another incorrect approach, such as consulting only with sales management for guidance on financial reporting, would ignore the specialized expertise of legal and compliance professionals, increasing the risk of non-compliance with complex financial regulations. Furthermore, an approach that involves delaying the reporting of negative financial information until a more opportune moment would violate principles of timely disclosure and could be viewed as an attempt to manipulate market perception, which is a serious ethical and regulatory breach. Professionals in similar situations should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with identifying the core issue and the relevant stakeholders. This should be followed by gathering all pertinent information, including company policies, regulatory requirements, and expert advice from legal and compliance teams. The next step involves evaluating potential courses of action against these established frameworks, considering both the immediate and long-term consequences. Finally, the decision should be documented and the rationale clearly articulated, ensuring accountability and transparency. Question 4. Quality control measures reveal that a high-traffic Alimentation Couche location is experiencing a significant dip in customer satisfaction scores due to understaffing during peak hours. The store manager, under pressure to improve these scores, is considering hiring a friend's unqualified nephew on a temporary basis without following the standard recruitment and onboarding procedures, arguing it's the quickest way to alleviate the immediate pressure. What is the most appropriate course of action for the store manager? Option A. Proceed with hiring the nephew temporarily, bypassing standard procedures, to address the immediate staffing shortage and improve customer satisfaction scores. Option B. Immediately contact regional management to explain the staffing challenge and request approval for expedited hiring of qualified candidates through official channels, while also exploring temporary solutions like adjusting promotional offers to manage customer flow. Option C. Assign additional shifts and responsibilities to existing staff to cover the shortfall, prioritizing immediate operational continuity. Option D. Reduce operating hours during peak times until a permanent solution can be found through the standard hiring process. The correct answer is A. Proceed with hiring the nephew temporarily, bypassing standard procedures, to address the immediate staffing shortage and improve customer satisfaction scores. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge because it requires balancing immediate operational needs with long-term strategic goals and ethical considerations. A store manager is faced with a situation where a temporary staffing shortage could impact customer service and sales, but the proposed solution involves circumventing established hiring protocols. The pressure to meet performance targets can create a temptation to take shortcuts, which can have significant downstream consequences. Careful judgment is required to assess the risks and benefits of different courses of action, ensuring compliance with company policy and ethical standards. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves adhering to the established hiring process, even if it means a temporary dip in service levels or sales. This aligns with Alimentation Couche-Tard's commitment to fair hiring practices and maintaining a consistent operational standard. By following the approved recruitment channels, the manager ensures that all candidates are evaluated fairly and that the company hires individuals who meet its standards. This approach prioritizes long-term operational stability and compliance over short-term gains, which is a hallmark of responsible management. It also avoids potential legal or ethical repercussions associated with bypassing established procedures. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves hiring an unqualified individual without proper vetting to fill the immediate gap. This fails to uphold the company's standards for employee competence and customer service. Ethically, it is unfair to both the unqualified individual, who may be set up for failure, and to customers who receive substandard service. From a regulatory perspective, depending on the role, this could violate internal policies regarding background checks or qualifications, and could lead to operational inefficiencies or even safety concerns if the role requires specific skills. Another incorrect approach is to overwork existing staff to cover the shortage. While seemingly a solution that avoids external hiring, this can lead to burnout, decreased morale, and increased errors. It also creates an unsustainable work environment and can violate labor laws regarding working hours and overtime. Ethically, it demonstrates a lack of regard for employee well-being and can damage the company's reputation as an employer. A third incorrect approach is to temporarily reduce operating hours or services without proper authorization. This can negatively impact customer satisfaction and revenue and may violate franchise agreements or operational standards set by Alimentation Couche-Tard. It also signals a lack of proactive problem-solving and can create an impression of instability. Professional reasoning. Professionals should utilize a decision-making framework that prioritizes ethical conduct and compliance with established policies. This involves 1. Identifying the core problem and its immediate impact. 2. Brainstorming potential solutions, considering both short-term and long-term consequences. 3. Evaluating each solution against company policies, ethical guidelines, and legal requirements. 4. Selecting the solution that best balances operational needs with these critical considerations. In situations of staffing shortages, proactive planning, clear communication with superiors, and adherence to approved recruitment processes are paramount. Question 5. The investigation demonstrates that a recently implemented automated inventory management system at several Alimentation Couche-Tard locations is showing significant deviations between recorded stock levels and physical counts, leading to operational inefficiencies. Which of the following represents the most effective and professionally sound approach to address this discrepancy? Option A. Instruct the technology vendor to unilaterally adjust the system's algorithms based on initial discrepancy reports without internal verification. Option B. Immediately revert to the previous manual inventory tracking system to restore operational stability while a new system is sought. Option C. Implement ad hoc adjustments to inventory reorder points and stock levels across all affected stores based on anecdotal feedback from store managers. Option D. Conduct a comprehensive audit of data input accuracy, system configuration, staff training effectiveness, and physical counting procedures to identify root causes before implementing corrective actions. The correct answer is D. Conduct a comprehensive audit of data input accuracy, system configuration, staff training effectiveness, and physical counting procedures to identify root causes before implementing corrective actions. Explanation. The investigation demonstrates a scenario where a new inventory management system has been implemented across multiple Alimentation Couche-Tard locations, aiming to optimize stock levels and reduce waste. However, initial reports indicate significant discrepancies between the system's projected stock and actual physical counts, leading to potential stockouts and increased spoilage. This situation is professionally challenging because it directly impacts operational efficiency, profitability, and customer satisfaction. The pressure to quickly resolve these issues without compromising regulatory compliance or introducing new problems requires careful judgment. The correct approach involves a systematic, data-driven review of the entire process optimization initiative. This includes validating the data input into the new system, assessing the accuracy of the system's algorithms, and evaluating the training provided to staff on its usage. It also necessitates a thorough examination of the physical inventory counting procedures to identify any human error or procedural flaws. This approach represents best professional practice because it adheres to principles of continuous improvement and data integrity, which are implicitly expected in retail operations, and align with general business ethics regarding accurate record-keeping and resource management. It prioritizes understanding the root cause of the problem before implementing broad changes, thereby avoiding potentially costly and ineffective solutions. An incorrect approach would be to immediately revert to the old system without a proper analysis. This fails to acknowledge the potential benefits of the new system and bypasses the opportunity to learn from the implementation challenges. It represents a failure in professional problem solving by avoiding a thorough investigation and potentially abandoning a valuable investment without due diligence. Another incorrect approach would be to solely blame the technology vendor without independently verifying system performance and user adherence. This demonstrates a lack of accountability and a failure to conduct a comprehensive internal review, potentially leading to ongoing issues if the problem lies within Alimentation, Couche's operational procedures, or staff training. A third incorrect approach would be to implement drastic, unverified changes to the system's parameters based on anecdotal evidence. This risks exacerbating the problem by introducing new, unquantified variables without a clear understanding of their impact, violating the principle of evidence-based decision-making. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with clearly defining the problem and its scope. This involves gathering all relevant data, identifying stakeholders, and establishing clear objectives for resolution. The next step is to hypothesize potential causes, followed by rigorous testing and analysis of these hypotheses. Solutions should then be developed, piloted, and evaluated for their effectiveness and impact before full-scale implementation. Continuous monitoring and feedback loops are crucial to ensure sustained success and to adapt to evolving circumstances. Question 6. Strategic planning requires a proactive approach to understanding the potential consequences of new initiatives. If Alimentation Couche were considering a significant expansion into a new market with different consumer preferences and regulatory landscapes, what would be the most prudent initial step in assessing the potential impacts of this expansion? Option A. Conduct a comprehensive stakeholder analysis and a detailed assessment of the regulatory environment, alongside an evaluation of operational and financial feasibility. Option B. Rely on the success of similar past expansions in other regions to guide the new market entry strategy. Option C. Immediately begin drafting marketing materials tailored to the new market's perceived preferences. Option D. Prioritize securing prime retail locations before fully understanding the local consumer base or legal requirements. Correct answer is C. Immediately begin drafting marketing materials tailored to the new market's perceived preferences. Explanation. Strategic planning requires a thorough understanding of potential impacts to ensure sustainable growth and compliance. In the context of Alimentation Couche's operations, which span multiple jurisdictions and involve diverse business activities, conducting a comprehensive impact assessment is crucial. This scenario is professionally challenging because it demands foresight into how proposed changes might affect various stakeholders, operational efficiency, and regulatory standing. A failure to adequately assess impacts can lead to unforeseen costs, reputational damage, and non-compliance with local laws and corporate policies. The correct approach involves a systematic and proactive evaluation of potential consequences. This includes identifying all relevant stakeholders, customers, employees, suppliers, communities, regulators, analyzing the direct and indirect effects of the proposed strategy on each group, and developing mitigation plans for negative impacts. This aligns with best professional practices by demonstrating due diligence, fostering transparency, and enabling informed decision-making. It also supports ethical conduct by prioritizing responsible business practices and minimizing harm. From a regulatory perspective, A robust impact assessment can help anticipate and address potential compliance issues before they arise, thereby safeguarding the company against penalties and legal challenges. Incorrect approaches fail to meet these standards. One incorrect approach might involve relying solely on historical data, without considering the unique context of the proposed strategy. This is professionally unacceptable, as it ignores the dynamic nature of business and regulatory environments, potentially leading to inaccurate predictions and inadequate preparedness. Another incorrect approach could be to focus only on financial impacts, neglecting social, environmental, or legal consequences. This is ethically flawed as it prioritizes profit over broader responsibilities and can lead to significant reputational damage and regulatory scrutiny. A third incorrect approach might be to delegate the assessment to junior staff without adequate oversight or expertise, resulting in a superficial analysis that misses critical risks. This demonstrates a lack of commitment to thoroughness and can expose the company to significant liabilities. Professionals should approach impact assessment by first defining the scope and objectives clearly. They should then employ a multifaceted methodology that considers qualitative and quantitative data, engages relevant internal and external experts, and incorporates feedback from affected parties. A structured decision-making process involves identifying potential impacts, assessing their likelihood and severity, evaluating the feasibility and cost of mitigation measures, and integrating the findings into the strategic plan. This iterative process ensures that the strategy is not only financially viable, but also socially responsible and legally compliant. Question 7. Compliance review shows that a new policy regarding employee scheduling flexibility is being considered for implementation across all Alimentation Couche locations. Before proceeding with a full rollout, what is the most appropriate next step to ensure responsible decision-making and mitigate potential risks? Option A. Proceed with immediate implementation of the policy, relying on the judgment of regional managers to adapt as needed. Option B. Schedule the policy's implementation for a future date and address any potential impacts at that time. Option C. Initiate a comprehensive impact assessment to evaluate the policy's effects on operational efficiency, employee morale, customer service, and financial performance. Option D. Gather informal feedback from a select group of store managers to gauge their initial reactions. Correct answer is C. Initiate a comprehensive impact assessment to evaluate the policy's effects on operational efficiency, employee morale, customer service, and financial performance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate operational needs of a busy retail environment with the long-term implications of a new policy. The pressure to maintain service levels and sales figures can lead to a temptation to bypass thorough impact assessments. The challenge lies in ensuring that the decision-making process is robust, considers all relevant stakeholders, and adheres to established procedures, even under time constraints. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that considers operational, financial, and customer service implications. This aligns with best professional practice by ensuring that decisions are data-driven and well-informed. It demonstrates a commitment to responsible business practices, risk mitigation, and strategic planning, which are implicitly expected in a hiring assessment context. Adhering to a structured impact assessment process helps prevent unintended negative consequences and supports sustainable business growth. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediately implementing the policy without a formal assessment. This represents a failure to follow established internal procedures and a disregard for potential negative impacts on staff morale, customer experience, and operational efficiency. It can lead to unforeseen problems that are more costly and difficult to rectify later. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on anecdotal feedback from a few managers. This is a failure to gather objective data and a potential source of bias. It overlooks the diverse perspectives of all affected employees and customers, leading to an incomplete understanding of the policy's true impact. This approach lacks the rigor required for sound business decision-making and can result in policies that are ineffective or detrimental. A further incorrect approach is to postpone the assessment indefinitely due to perceived urgency of other tasks. This demonstrates poor prioritization and a lack of commitment to due diligence. It risks the policy being implemented without proper understanding of its consequences, potentially causing significant disruption and undermining the credibility of management. Professional reasoning. Professionals should approach such situations by recognizing the importance of structured decision-making processes. This involves understanding the purpose of impact assessments as a tool for risk management and strategic planning. When faced with time pressures, the professional reasoning process should prioritize adherence to established protocols while seeking efficient ways to gather necessary information. This might involve delegating specific data collection tasks or focusing the assessment on the most critical potential impacts. The ultimate goal is to make informed decisions that benefit the organization in the long term, rather than succumbing to short-term pressures. Question 8. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a data breach impacting customer loyalty and a high impact on regulatory fines. Which of the following actions best reflects a responsible approach to managing this identified risk? Option A. Treat the impact on customer loyalty as a separate marketing issue and focus solely on the direct financial costs associated with regulatory fines. Option B. Prioritize addressing only those risks with a high likelihood, regardless of their potential impact, as these are the most probable threats. Option C. Conduct a detailed impact assessment to understand the potential financial, operational, and reputational consequences of a data breach, and develop a multi-layered mitigation strategy that includes enhanced cybersecurity measures and a robust incident response plan. Option D. Allocate minimal resources to cybersecurity as the likelihood of a breach is only moderate, focusing instead on immediate operational cost savings. Correct answer is C. Conduct a detailed impact assessment to understand the potential financial, operational, and reputational consequences of a data breach, and develop a multi-layered mitigation strategy that includes enhanced cybersecurity measures and a robust incident response plan. Explanation. The risk matrix shows a moderate likelihood of a data breach impacting customer loyalty and a high impact on regulatory fines. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing immediate operational concerns with long-term reputational and financial risks, all within the strict confines of data privacy regulations. The decision-maker must not only identify potential risks, but also assess their severity and prioritize mitigation strategies effectively. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it involves a comprehensive impact assessment that considers both the likelihood and severity of the data breach. This aligns with the principles of data protection regulations, which mandate a proactive and risk-based approach to data security. By evaluating the potential impact on customer trust and regulatory compliance, the organization can allocate resources appropriately to prevent or mitigate such an event. This demonstrates due diligence and a commitment to safeguarding sensitive information, thereby upholding ethical responsibilities and regulatory obligations. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate financial cost of a breach, without considering the broader implications for customer loyalty and regulatory penalties, fails to meet the requirements of a thorough impact assessment. This oversight could lead to undersourcing of security measures, increasing the likelihood of a breach and its subsequent severe consequences. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes only high likelihood, low-impact risks neglects the potential for catastrophic events, even if their probability is lower. This reactive stance is contrary to the proactive risk management expected under data protection laws. Furthermore, an approach that dismisses the impact on customer loyalty as purely a marketing concern, rather than a direct consequence of a security failure, demonstrates a fundamental misunderstanding of the interconnectedness of data security, customer trust, and business viability. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the regulatory landscape and its specific requirements for data protection and impact assessment. This involves identifying all potential risks, evaluating their likelihood and impact across various dimensions: financial, reputational, operational, legal, and then prioritizing mitigation efforts based on this comprehensive assessment. Regular review and updating of the risk assessment process are crucial to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory changes. Question 9. System analysis indicates that Alimentation Couche is considering a significant expansion of its retail footprint through a series of new store openings across various regions. To ensure this expansion is conducted responsibly and sustainably, what is the most appropriate approach to assessing the potential consequences of this initiative? Option A. Focus the assessment solely on the direct economic benefits to the company, such as increased revenue and job creation, without considering broader societal or environmental implications. Option B. Delegate the assessment to individual store managers, allowing them to address any local concerns as they emerge without a centralized framework or overarching evaluation. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically identifies and evaluates potential environmental, social, and economic effects, engaging with relevant stakeholders to gather diverse perspectives and inform mitigation strategies. Option D. Prioritize the immediate financial benefits and operational efficiencies of the new store openings, assuming that any negative impacts will be minor and can be addressed reactively if they arise. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive impact assessment that systematically identifies and evaluates potential environmental, social, and economic effects, engaging with relevant stakeholders to gather diverse perspectives and inform mitigation strategies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Alimentation Couche, as a publicly traded company operating in multiple jurisdictions, must ensure its impact assessments for new initiatives are thorough, compliant, and consider a broad range of stakeholders. The challenge lies in balancing the need for efficient business expansion with the ethical and regulatory obligations to understand and mitigate potential negative consequences. Careful judgment is required to identify all relevant impacts, assess their significance, and develop appropriate responses, all while adhering to the specific regulatory frameworks governing the company's operations. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it demonstrates a commitment to responsible business conduct and proactive risk management. By systematically identifying and evaluating potential impacts across environmental, social, and economic dimensions, and by engaging with relevant stakeholders, the company fulfills its ethical duty to minimize harm and maximize positive contributions. This aligns with general principles of corporate social responsibility and good governance, which are increasingly expected by regulators, investors, and the public. While specific regulations for Alimentation Couche's hiring assessment test are not provided, the general principle of conducting thorough impact assessments for significant business changes is a cornerstone of responsible corporate behavior. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate operational benefits without considering broader consequences represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This could lead to unforeseen liabilities, reputational damage, and noncompliance with evolving environmental and social governance-esque standards. For instance, neglecting to assess the social impact on local communities could result in public opposition and regulatory scrutiny. Similarly, an approach that overlooks potential environmental impacts, such as waste generation or energy consumption associated with a new initiative, could violate environmental protection laws and lead to fines or operational disruptions. An approach that fails to consult with relevant stakeholders, such as employees or community representatives, may miss critical insights and create an environment of distrust, potentially leading to legal challenges or operational delays. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach to impact assessment. This typically includes defining the scope of the assessment, identifying potential impacts, both positive and negative, analyzing the significance of these impacts, developing mitigation or enhancement strategies, and establishing a monitoring and review process. Professionals should always consider the specific legal and regulatory landscape relevant to the initiative, consult with subject matter experts, and engage with affected stakeholders to ensure a comprehensive and responsible outcome. Question 10. The control framework reveals that a new supplier providing inventory management software has stated they adhere to general data protection principles, but has not provided detailed documentation on their specific data security protocols for the data they might indirectly access or process through their system's integration with Alimentation Couche's network. What is the most prudent approach to assessing the potential impact of this supplier's security posture on Alimentation Couche's compliance obligations? Option A. Request the supplier to provide a basic overview of their data handling procedures, focusing only on what is explicitly mandated by the current contract. Option B. Conduct a detailed impact assessment that evaluates the supplier's overall security maturity, potential for indirect data exposure, and alignment with Alimentation Couche data protection policies, even if not explicitly required by current contract terms. Option C. Accept the supplier's general statement of adherence to data protection principles as sufficient, given that their primary function is inventory management and not direct customer data processing. Option D. Rely solely on the supplier's existing industry certifications without further investigation, assuming these certifications guarantee adequate security for all potential data interactions. The correct answer is B. Conduct a detailed impact assessment that evaluates the supplier's overall security maturity, potential for indirect data exposure, and alignment with Alimentation Couche's data protection policies, even if not explicitly required by current contract terms. Explanation. The control framework reveals a potential gap in how Alimentation Couche assesses the impact of a new supplier's data security practices on the company's overall compliance posture. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires a forward-thinking approach to risk management, moving beyond simply checking boxes to understanding the downstream effects of third-party relationships. The company must proactively identify and mitigate risks that could arise from a supplier's inadequate security, even if that supplier is not directly handling sensitive customer data in a way that immediately triggers a specific regulatory breach. The correct approach, which involves conducting a comprehensive impact assessment that considers potential indirect data exposure and the supplier's overall security maturity, represents best professional practice. This aligns with a proactive compliance strategy, emphasizing due diligence and risk mitigation. Regulatory frameworks, while often focused on direct data handling, increasingly expect organizations to have robust third-party risk management programs. This approach demonstrates a commitment to safeguarding company and customer information by anticipating vulnerabilities rather than reacting to incidents. It reflects a mature understanding of data governance and the interconnectedness of business operations with supplier performance. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the supplier's current contractual obligations regarding data handling, without considering the broader implications of their security posture, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure. This narrow view ignores the potential for data breaches to occur through indirect means, or as a result of a supplier's overall weak security environment, which could still expose Alimentation Couche to reputational damage and potential regulatory scrutiny. Another incorrect approach, which relies on the assumption that the supplier's existing certifications are sufficient without independent verification or ongoing monitoring, also fails to meet professional standards. Certifications can become outdated, and a lack of active oversight can lead to a false sense of security, leaving the company vulnerable. The professional reasoning process for similar situations should involve a layered risk assessment. First, identify all third-party relationships and the types of data or systems they interact with. Second, categorize these relationships based on the sensitivity of the data and the potential impact of a breach. Third, for high-risk relationships, conduct a thorough due diligence process that includes evaluating the third party's security policies, procedures, and incident response plans. Fourth, establish clear contractual requirements and ongoing monitoring mechanisms. Finally, regularly review and update the third-party risk management program to adapt to evolving threats and regulatory expectations. Question 11. Assessment of the potential impact of a proposed change in inventory valuation method on Alimentation Couche's financial statements and compliance with reporting standards, considering both direct cost implications and broader disclosure requirements. Option A. Focus solely on the potential tax benefits of the proposed inventory valuation method, disregarding its impact on the overall financial reporting framework and investor understanding. Option B. Implement the new inventory valuation method immediately if it is projected to reduce reported expenses, without further analysis of its effect on comparability with prior periods or the need for retrospective adjustments. Option C. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the proposed inventory valuation method's effect on cost of goods sold, ending inventory values, gross profit margins, and net income, while also evaluating the necessary disclosures in the financial statement footnotes to ensure transparency and compliance with applicable accounting standards. Option D. Assume the change will have no material impact on financial reporting, and proceed with implementation without any formal assessment or documentation. The correct answer is C. Conduct a comprehensive analysis of the proposed inventory valuation method's effect on cost of goods sold, ending inventory values, gross profit margins, and net income, while also evaluating the necessary disclosures in the financial statement footnotes to ensure transparency and compliance with applicable accounting standards. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because Alimentation Couche, as a publicly traded company, operates under stringent regulatory oversight, particularly concerning financial reporting and internal controls. The impact assessment topic, when applied to a potential change in accounting policy, requires a thorough understanding of how such a change could affect the company's financial statements, investor confidence, and compliance with accounting standards. The challenge lies in accurately predicting and quantifying these impacts, ensuring transparency, and adhering to the principles of sound financial management and corporate governance. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a comprehensive and systematic evaluation of the proposed accounting policy change. This involves not only understanding the direct financial implications, but also considering the broader effects on financial reporting, internal controls, and stakeholder communication. Adhering to relevant accounting standards, e.g., IFRS or US GAAP, depending on the primary listing jurisdiction of Alimentation Couche, and internal company policies is paramount. A thorough impact assessment ensures that any change is justified, properly disclosed, and implemented in a manner that maintains the integrity of financial information and complies with regulatory requirements. This proactive approach minimizes the risk of misstatements, regulatory scrutiny, and reputational damage. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the immediate cost savings of a new policy, without considering its implications for comparability of financial statements or the potential for increased audit effort, represents a significant regulatory and ethical failure, demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the principles of fair presentation and transparency. Another incorrect approach, which involves implementing a change without proper documentation or consultation with relevant stakeholders, e.g., internal audit, external auditors, or the audit committee, violates internal control frameworks and potentially regulatory requirements for oversight and approval of significant accounting changes. This can lead to non-compliance, misinterpretation of financial results, and a breakdown in corporate governance. A third incorrect approach, which assumes a change will have no material impact without performing a detailed analysis, is negligent and fails to meet the professional standard of care required in financial reporting. This oversight can lead to material misstatements going undetected, which is a serious breach of regulatory obligations and ethical duties. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Identify the proposed change and its nature. 2. Understand the relevant accounting standards and regulatory requirements. 3. Conduct a detailed impact assessment considering financial, operational, and reporting implications. 4. Consult with internal and external experts as necessary. 5. Document the assessment, rationale for the decision, and implementation plan. 6. Obtain appropriate approvals. 7. Communicate the change and its implications to relevant stakeholders. Question 12. Comparative studies suggest that the introduction of new inventory management technology in a retail environment can significantly alter operational workflows and employee responsibilities. Considering Alimentation Couche's commitment to operational excellence and employee well-being, which of the following represents the most prudent and ethically sound approach to managing the transition to such a system? Option A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment involving employee representatives to identify potential changes to job roles, skill requirements, and training needs, and develop a comprehensive transition plan that includes adequate support and reskilling opportunities. Option B. Rely on the IT department's assessment of the technology's capabilities and assume that employees will adapt to the new system with minimal disruption. Option C. Focus primarily on the potential cost savings and efficiency gains projected by the technology vendor, with employee training being a secondary consideration to be addressed only if absolutely necessary. Option D. Prioritize the immediate implementation of the new technology to gain a competitive advantage, addressing any employee concerns or training gaps on an ad hoc basis as they arise. The correct answer is A. Conduct a thorough impact assessment involving employee representatives to identify potential changes to job roles, skill requirements, and training needs, and develop a comprehensive transition plan that includes adequate support and reskilling opportunities. Explanation. The scenario presents a common challenge in retail operations, balancing the introduction of new technology with potential impacts on existing processes and employee roles. The professional challenge lies in proactively identifying and mitigating negative consequences before they arise, ensuring compliance with relevant employment laws and ethical considerations. A thorough impact assessment is crucial to avoid unintended disruptions, maintain employee morale, and ensure the smooth integration of new systems. The correct approach involves a comprehensive impact assessment that considers various facets of the business. This includes evaluating the potential effects on operational efficiency, customer service, data security, and, critically, the workforce. By engaging with employees, understanding their concerns, and developing appropriate training and support mechanisms, the company demonstrates a commitment to responsible change management. This aligns with ethical business practices and potentially with labor regulations that mandate consultation or consideration of employee welfare during significant operational changes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on the technological benefits without considering the human element fails to address potential job displacement or the need for new skill sets. This could lead to employee resistance, decreased productivity, and potential legal challenges related to unfair dismissal or lack of adequate notice and support. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes cost savings above all else, neglecting employee training or support, risks alienating the workforce and undermining the long-term success of the technology implementation. This demonstrates a lack of ethical consideration for the impact on individuals. A third incorrect approach that relies on anecdotal evidence or assumptions rather than a structured assessment risks overlooking critical issues, leading to unforeseen problems and a reactive, rather than proactive, management style. This is professionally unsound and can result in significant operational and reputational damage. The professional reasoning process should involve a structured approach to change management. This begins with defining the scope of the change, identifying potential stakeholders and their interests, and then systematically assessing the impact across all relevant areas. For workforce impacts, this means consulting with employees, understanding their current roles and skill sets, and planning for necessary training, reskilling, or redeployment. Developing contingency plans for unforeseen issues and establishing clear communication channels are also vital components of effective professional decision-making in such situations. Question 13. The performance metrics show a consistent pattern of minor inventory discrepancies and a slight increase in customer complaints regarding stock availability at a particular Alimentation Couche convenience store. The store manager has observed a long-term trusted employee, who is usually highly reliable, appearing distracted and occasionally taking extended breaks. The manager suspects this behavior might be linked to the operational issues but lacks concrete proof of misconduct. What is the most appropriate initial course of action for the store manager to take? Option A. Conduct a private, direct conversation with the employee to express concerns, seek understanding of their recent behavior, and reiterate performance expectations. Option B. Discuss the employee's recent behavior and the store's performance issues with other team members to gather their observations and opinions. Option C. Ignore the employee's behavior and the inventory discrepancies, assuming it is a temporary issue that will resolve on its own. Option D. Immediately terminate the employee's employment due to the suspected link between their behavior and the store's performance issues. The correct answer is A. Conduct a private, direct conversation with the employee to express concerns, seek understanding of their recent behavior, and reiterate performance expectations. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with regulatory compliance and ethical conduct. A store manager is faced with a situation where a long-standing, trusted employee is exhibiting behavior that, while not overtly criminal, could lead to significant financial loss or reputational damage for Alimentation Couche if not addressed. The manager must act decisively without resorting to immediate punitive measures that could be unfair or legally problematic, and without ignoring the potential risks. The challenge lies in gathering sufficient, objective information to support any action taken, while also maintaining employee morale and adhering to company policy and relevant employment laws. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a systematic fact-finding process that respects the employee's rights and company procedures. This includes discrete observation, reviewing available data, like inventory discrepancies or customer complaints, if applicable, and then conducting a private, direct conversation with the employee to understand their perspective and the reasons behind the observed behavior. This approach aligns with principles of fairness, due process, and the legal requirements for employee management, which typically mandate investigation and opportunity for explanation before disciplinary action. It also upholds ethical standards by treating the employee with dignity and seeking to resolve the issue constructively. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves immediate termination based on suspicion alone. This is a significant regulatory and ethical failure. Employment laws in most jurisdictions require just cause for termination and often mandate a progressive disciplinary process, including warnings and opportunities to improve. Terminating without proper investigation or due process can lead to wrongful dismissal claims, legal penalties, and damage to the company's reputation as an employer. Another incorrect approach is to ignore the behavior, hoping it resolves itself. This is professionally negligent and ethically irresponsible. By failing to address the issue, the manager risks escalating the problem, potentially leading to greater financial losses, increased risk of theft or fraud, and a breakdown in operational standards. This inaction could also be seen as a failure to uphold the company's duty of care to its stakeholders and a violation of internal control policies. A third incorrect approach is to discuss the employee's performance and potential issues with other staff members. This constitutes a breach of confidentiality and can create a toxic work environment, fostering gossip and undermining trust. It is also a violation of privacy laws and company policy regarding employee information, and can lead to defamation claims. Professional reasoning. Professionals in management roles must adopt a structured decision-making process when faced with employee performance issues. This process typically involves 1. Observation and documentation, objectively noting specific behaviors and their potential impact. 2. Information gathering, discreetly collecting relevant data and evidence. 3. Direct communication, engaging the employee in a private, respectful conversation to understand their perspective. 4. Policy and legal review, consulting company policies and relevant employment laws to ensure all actions are compliant. 5. Action planning, developing a course of action based on the gathered information, which may include coaching, training, warnings, or, if necessary and justified, disciplinary action. 6. Follow-up, monitoring the situation to ensure resolution and provide ongoing support if appropriate. This systematic approach ensures fairness, legality, and ethical conduct. Question 14. To address the challenge of unexplained inventory discrepancies in a busy retail environment, which of the following strategies best reflects a proactive and responsible approach to identifying and mitigating potential losses? Option A. Immediately increase surveillance and security measures across all store locations to deter potential theft, assuming this is the primary cause of the discrepancies. Option B. Accept a certain level of inventory variance as an unavoidable cost of doing business in a high-traffic retail setting and focus solely on sales performance. Option C. Implement a strict policy of immediate disciplinary action for any staff member associated with a shift where inventory discrepancies are noted, regardless of the investigation's outcome. Option D. Conduct a thorough review of all inventory management procedures, including cycle counts, receiving protocols, and sales reconciliation, to pinpoint systemic issues and implement targeted corrective actions. The correct answer is D. Conduct a thorough review of all inventory management procedures, including cycle counts, receiving protocols, and sales reconciliation, to pinpoint systemic issues and implement targeted corrective actions. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge related to inventory management and potential shrinkage within a retail environment like Alimentation Couche. The core difficulty lies in balancing the need for accurate inventory records to prevent financial loss and ensure product availability with the practicalities of a high-volume, fast-paced operation. The pressure to maintain sales targets can sometimes lead to overlooking minor discrepancies, but a systematic approach is crucial to identify and address the root causes of inventory loss, whether due to theft, damage, or administrative errors. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a comprehensive review of inventory management procedures, including regular cycle counts, detailed receiving and sales reconciliation, and staff training on loss prevention. This aligns with best practices in retail operations, and by extension, the likely expectations of Alimentation couch-starred for operational efficiency and financial integrity. While specific regulations for inventory management in this context might not be explicitly detailed in a general hiring assessment, the underlying principles of due diligence, accuracy, and accountability are universally expected in business operations. This approach demonstrates a proactive and systematic commitment to identifying and mitigating risks, which is a hallmark of professional responsibility. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to dismiss the observed discrepancies as minor operational noise without further investigation. This fails to uphold the professional duty of care in managing company assets and could lead to significant financial losses if the issue is systemic. Ethically, it represents a lack of diligence and a potential disregard for the financial health of the business. Another incorrect approach would be to immediately implement punitive measures against staff without a thorough investigation into the causes of the discrepancies. This is professionally unsound as it can damage morale, create a climate of distrust, and may not address the actual source of the problem, which could be procedural or systemic rather than intentional misconduct. It also risks alienating valuable employees and could lead to legal challenges if not handled correctly. A third incorrect approach would be to focus solely on increasing security measures without analyzing the underlying inventory processes. While security is a component of loss prevention, it is not a complete solution. This approach fails to address potential internal errors in ordering, receiving, or sales recording, which are often significant contributors to inventory discrepancies. It is an incomplete and potentially costly solution that neglects a holistic view of inventory management. Professional reasoning. Professionals facing such a situation should adopt a structured problem-solving framework. This involves 1. Data gathering. Collect all relevant inventory data and identify the nature and extent of the discrepancies. 2. Root cause analysis. Investigate potential causes including theft, damage, receiving errors, sales recording errors, and administrative mistakes. 3. Solution development. Based on the root cause, develop targeted solutions, which may include procedural changes, enhanced training, or improved security measures. 4. Implementation and monitoring. Implement the chosen solutions and continuously monitor inventory performance to assess effectiveness and make further adjustments as needed. This systematic and data-driven approach ensures that decisions are informed, effective, and professionally responsible. Question 15. Governance review demonstrates that Alimentation couch-starred is planning to integrate a new customer relationship management (CRM) system to enhance marketing efforts. The project timeline is aggressive, with a target launch date in 3 months. The IT department has indicated that the new CRM will process significant volumes of customer personal data, including purchase history and contact information. While the vendor has provided a standard data processing agreement, a formal, system-specific data privacy impact assessment (DPIA) has not yet been conducted. Which of the following actions represents the most appropriate and compliant next step for Alimentation couch-starred? Option A. Immediately halt the integration process and conduct a comprehensive data privacy impact assessment (DPIA) specifically for the new CRM system before proceeding. Option B. Proceed with the CRM system integration as planned, relying on the vendor's data processing agreement and general internal data privacy policies to ensure compliance. Option C. Expedite the integration and plan to conduct a post-implementation review of data privacy practices within 6 months of the system going live. Option D. Delegate the responsibility of conducting the DPIA to the CRM vendor, assuming their assessment will meet all regulatory requirements. Correct answer is B. Proceed with the CRM system integration as planned, relying on the vendor's data processing agreement and general internal data privacy policies to ensure compliance. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining operational efficiency and adhering to stringent data privacy regulations. The pressure to quickly integrate new systems for competitive advantage can lead to overlooking critical compliance steps. The professional must balance business objectives with legal and ethical obligations, requiring a nuanced understanding of data handling protocols and potential risks. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach prioritizes a thorough data privacy impact assessment, DPIA, before system integration. This aligns with the principles of data protection by design and by default, as mandated by various data privacy frameworks. A DPIA systematically identifies and mitigates risks associated with processing personal data, ensuring that the new system's design and implementation comply with all applicable regulations. This proactive approach prevents potential breaches, regulatory fines, and reputational damage, representing best professional practice by embedding compliance into the project lifecycle. Incorrect approaches analysis. One incorrect approach involves proceeding with integration based on a general understanding of data privacy, without a specific assessment for the new system. This fails to address the unique risks posed by the new technology and data flows, potentially violating regulations that require specific risk assessments for new data processing activities. It demonstrates a lack of due diligence and a disregard for the principle of accountability. Another incorrect approach is to rely solely on the vendor's assurances regarding data security and privacy. While vendor compliance is important, the ultimate responsibility for data protection rests with the organization. This approach abdicates responsibility and could lead to non-compliance if the vendor's practices do not fully meet the organization's regulatory obligations or if unforeseen vulnerabilities exist. A third incorrect approach is to delay the data privacy assessment until after the system is live, citing time constraints. This is a reactive and high-risk strategy. It significantly increases the likelihood of data breaches or non-compliance occurring during the initial operational phase, leading to severe penalties and requiring costly remediation efforts. It fundamentally undermines the principles of data protection by design and by default. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a risk-based approach, integrating compliance considerations from the outset of any project involving data processing. This involves understanding the specific regulatory landscape, conducting thorough impact assessments, implementing appropriate technical and organizational measures, and establishing ongoing monitoring and review processes. When faced with competing priorities, professionals must advocate for and ensure that compliance is not compromised for the sake of speed or cost. Question 16. Market research demonstrates that a key competitor in a specific region has recently launched a significant price reduction on a popular convenience item, coupled with a prominent lowest price guaranteed advertising campaign. Alimentation Couche is considering a response. Which of the following actions best represents a responsible and compliant approach to this competitive development? Option A. Ignore the competitor's promotion and continue with existing pricing and promotional plans, assuming customer loyalty will mitigate any immediate impact. Option B. Immediately implement a matching price reduction on the same item and launch a similar lowest price guaranteed campaign to counter the competitor's messaging. Option C. Introduce a new, significantly lower-priced private label alternative to the competitor's popular item, without verifying the competitor's actual cost structure or the legality of such a drastic price differential. Option D. Conduct a thorough legal and competitive analysis to assess the competitor's pricing strategy and the potential implications of various response options, ensuring compliance with all relevant competition laws and consumer protection regulations before deciding on a course of action. Correct answer is B. Immediately implement a matching price reduction on the same item and launch a similar lowest price guaranteed campaign to counter the competitor's messaging. Explanation. Scenario analysis. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing competitive market strategies with ethical considerations and regulatory compliance. Alimentation Couche, as a major player, must navigate the complexities of pricing and promotional activities to maintain market share, without engaging in practices that could be deemed anti-competitive or misleading to consumers. The pressure to respond to competitor actions while adhering to legal and ethical standards requires careful judgment and a thorough understanding of relevant regulations. Correct approach analysis. The correct approach involves a thorough review of Alimentation Couche's proposed promotional strategy against established competition laws and consumer protection guidelines. This includes assessing whether the proposed discounts could be interpreted as predatory pricing, which aims to drive out competitors, or if the advertising claims are substantiated and not misleading. Best professional practice dictates that any promotional activity should be transparent, fair, and compliant with all applicable regulations, ensuring consumer trust and a level playing field in the market. This aligns with the principles of fair competition and consumer welfare, which are cornerstones of regulatory frameworks governing retail operations. Incorrect approach is analysis. One incorrect approach would be to immediately implement a matching discount strategy without any prior analysis. This could lead to accusations of predatory pricing if the discounts are unsustainable and designed to harm competitors, violating competition laws. Ethically, it demonstrates a reactive and potentially irresponsible business practice. Another incorrect approach would be to ignore the competitor's actions and continue with the original, potentially less competitive, pricing. While this avoids direct engagement, it could lead to a significant loss of market share and revenue, failing to act in the best interest of the company and its shareholders. This approach neglects the duty of care to the business's financial health. A third incorrect approach would be to implement a promotional strategy that relies on exaggerated or unsubstantiated claims about product superiority or savings. This would be a direct violation of consumer protection laws and ethical advertising standards, potentially leading to fines, reputational damage, and loss of consumer trust. Professional reasoning. Professionals should adopt a framework that prioritizes thorough due diligence. This involves 1. Understanding the competitive landscape and the specific actions of competitors. 2. Consulting legal and compliance teams to assess the legality and ethical implications of any proposed response. 3. Evaluating the potential impact of different strategies on market share, profitability, and consumer perception. 4. Developing a response that is both strategically sound and fully compliant with all relevant laws and ethical guidelines. This systematic approach ensures that business decisions are informed, responsible, and sustainable. Question 17. The monitoring system demonstrates a pattern of intermittent, minor discrepancies in inventory levels at a specific store location compared to sales data. These discrepancies are not significant enough to trigger an immediate high-priority alert but are recurring. What is the most appropriate initial course of action? Option A. Disregard the recurring discrepancies as minor operational noise that does not warrant further investigation given their infrequent and small-scale nature. Option B. Adjust the inventory system's tolerance levels to accommodate these minor, recurring discrepancies, assuming they are within an acceptable operational margin. Option C. Initiate a targeted review of the store's inventory management procedures and recent transaction logs with the store operations team to understand the root cause of the recurring discrepancies. Option D. Immediately escalate the issue to the loss prevention department for a full-scale investigation into potential theft. The correct answer is C. Initiate a targeted review of the store's inventory management procedures and recent transaction logs with the store operations team to understand the root cause of the recurring discrepancies. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent tension between operational efficiency and regulatory compliance, particularly concerning data privacy and accuracy. The monitoring system's demonstration of a potential discrepancy requires careful judgment to avoid both regulatory breaches and operational disruptions. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting the system's output, understanding its limitations, and determining the appropriate course of action without compromising customer trust or violating data protection principles. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes a thorough, evidence-based investigation before taking any action that could impact customer data or operations. This aligns with the principles of due diligence and responsible data handling, which are paramount under data privacy regulations. By initiating a review with the relevant internal team and escalating based on findings, the process ensures that any necessary corrective actions are informed, proportionate, and compliant. This methodical approach minimizes the risk of unfounded accusations, unnecessary data access, or premature system adjustments that could introduce new errors. An incorrect approach that involves immediately flagging individual transactions for review without further context or verification is professionally unacceptable. This could lead to unwarranted scrutiny of customer activity, potentially violating privacy expectations and creating a negative customer experience. It also risks misinterpreting system anomalies as genuine issues, leading to inefficient use of resources and potentially incorrect disciplinary actions. Another incorrect approach, such as ignoring the system alert due to its infrequent nature, is a direct contravention of risk management principles and regulatory expectations for proactive monitoring. This failure to investigate potential issues could result in undetected fraud, data breaches, or systemic operational flaws, leading to significant legal and financial repercussions. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a structured approach. 1. Acknowledge and document the alert. 2. Assess the nature and potential impact of the anomaly. 3. Consult internal policies and relevant regulatory guidelines. 4. Engage with the appropriate internal subject matter experts for clarification and initial assessment. 5. Based on the initial assessment, determine the next steps, which may include further investigation, system adjustment, or escalation. 6. Ensure all actions taken are documented and justifiable. Question 18. Consider a scenario where a hiring manager at Alimentation Couche discovers that one of the top candidates for an open position is their former college roommate, with whom they have maintained a casual friendship. The hiring manager has not seen this candidate in over 5 years, but has recently reconnected on social media. The candidate is highly qualified and would be a strong asset to the team. What is the most appropriate course of action for the hiring manager? Option A. Inform the candidate that they are a former college roommate and subtly suggest that they highlight specific skills during the interview that would be particularly beneficial for the role. Option B. Proceed with the hiring decision as normal, as the friendship is casual and they haven't seen the candidate in years, believing their professional judgment will not be compromised. Option C. Withdraw from the hiring process without explanation, assuming this will avoid any appearance of impropriety. Option D. Immediately disclose the past friendship to their direct supervisor and human resources, and recuse themselves from all further involvement in the hiring process for this position. The correct answer is D. Immediately disclose the past friendship to their direct supervisor and human resources, and recuse themselves from all further involvement in the hiring process for this position. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires an individual to navigate potential conflicts of interest and ensure compliance with Alimentation, Couche internal policies, and relevant employment laws. The core issue is balancing personal relationships with professional responsibilities, particularly when those relationships could influence business decisions or create an appearance of impropriety. Careful judgment is required to uphold ethical standards and maintain the integrity of the hiring process. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes transparency and adherence to established procedures designed to prevent bias and ensure fairness. By disclosing the relationship and recusing oneself from the decision-making process, the individual demonstrates integrity and upholds the company's commitment to a merit-based hiring system. This aligns with general ethical principles of avoiding conflicts of interest and ensuring that all candidates are evaluated objectively, as often mandated by corporate governance guidelines and employment regulations that aim to prevent discrimination and favoritism. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the hiring decision without disclosure and recusal would represent a significant ethical failure. This could lead to accusations of nepotism or favoritism, undermining the credibility of the hiring process and potentially violating company policies designed to ensure fair employment practices. Such an action could also expose the company to legal challenges if it is perceived that the candidate was hired based on their relationship rather than their qualifications, potentially contravening anti-discrimination laws. Another incorrect approach, such as attempting to subtly influence the hiring manager without direct involvement, is also professionally unacceptable. This circumvents the established process and still introduces bias, albeit indirectly. It demonstrates a lack of integrity and a willingness to manipulate the system for personal reasons, which is a breach of professional conduct and trust. A further incorrect approach, such as withdrawing from the hiring process entirely without any communication or explanation, might seem like an avoidance of conflict, but is also problematic. It fails to address the situation proactively and transparently, leaving the company potentially unaware of a conflict that could have been managed appropriately. Professional reasoning in such situations involves a structured decision-making process. First, identify the potential conflict of interest. Second, consult relevant company policies and, if necessary, HR or legal counsel. Third, communicate the conflict transparently to the appropriate parties. And fourth, recuse oneself from any decision-making capacity related to the situation. This systematic approach ensures that ethical standards and regulatory requirements are met. Question 19. The investigation demonstrates that a proposed loyalty program for Alimentation Couche customers includes a tiered reward system that offers exclusive discounts and early access to new products. To personalize offers, the program requires customers to opt into sharing their purchase history and demographic information. However, the opt-in language is embedded within a lengthy terms and conditions document, and the marketing materials for the program highlight the benefits without explicitly detailing the data collection and usage policies. Which of the following approaches best navigates the regulatory landscape concerning consumer protection and data privacy? Option A. Revise the opt-in process to ensure clear, concise, and prominent disclosure of data collection and usage, and update marketing materials to accurately reflect these policies, while also conducting a thorough legal review of the entire program. Option B. Proceed with the campaign as planned, assuming customers understand the implications of opting into a loyalty program and that the benefits outweigh any privacy concerns. Option C. Immediately halt the loyalty program and all associated marketing efforts due to potential ambiguities in the opt-in process and the need for further legal review. Option D. Implement the program with a simplified opt-in that only collects basic contact information, foregoing the detailed purchase history and demographic data to minimize privacy risks. The correct answer is B. Proceed with the campaign as planned, assuming customers understand the implications of opting into a loyalty program and that the benefits outweigh any privacy concerns. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between maintaining customer loyalty and adhering to regulatory requirements regarding data privacy and responsible marketing. Alimentation Couche, as a retail entity, relies on customer engagement, but must balance this with the legal obligations to protect personal information and avoid misleading advertising. The core of the challenge lies in interpreting and applying the relevant data protection and consumer protection laws to a specific marketing campaign. The correct approach represents best professional practice because it prioritizes compliance with the Alimentation Couche hiring assessment tests specified regulatory framework, which would likely include consumer protection laws and data privacy regulations. This approach involves a thorough review of the campaign's messaging and data collection practices against these legal standards. It demonstrates a commitment to ethical conduct and risk mitigation by proactively identifying and addressing potential violations before they lead to reputational damage or legal penalties. This aligns with the principle of acting with integrity and due diligence, ensuring that business operations are conducted within the bounds of the law and ethical considerations. An incorrect approach that involves proceeding with the campaign without a comprehensive legal review fails to uphold the duty of care owed to customers and regulators. This could lead to violations of data privacy laws, such as unauthorized use or disclosure of personal information, and consumer protection laws, by engaging in deceptive or unfair marketing practices. For instance, if the campaign implies a benefit that is not genuinely offered or if customer data is used in ways not consented to, it constitutes a regulatory failure. Another incorrect approach, such as immediately canceling the campaign without understanding the specific legal risks, might be overly cautious and could miss opportunities for legitimate customer engagement, but it is less of a direct regulatory failure than proceeding without due diligence. However, an approach that relies on outdated or irrelevant legal interpretations would also be a failure, as it demonstrates a lack of current knowledge and a disregard for the evolving legal landscape. Professionals should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with identifying the relevant legal and ethical obligations. This involves consulting internal legal counsel or compliance officers, reviewing the specifics of the proposed action, in this case, the marketing campaign, and assessing potential risks against established legal frameworks. A risk-based approach, where the severity of potential violations is weighed against the likelihood of occurrence, is crucial. When in doubt, seeking expert advice and erring on the side of caution, while still aiming for effective business outcomes, is the most responsible path. Question 20. Upon reviewing recent operational data, a significant upward trend in customer complaints across multiple store locations has been identified. The complaints vary in nature, but often relate to product availability and perceived service speed. What is the most appropriate initial course of action for a store manager to take? Option A. Assume the increase is a temporary anomaly and instruct staff to focus on their regular duties, with no specific action taken regarding the complaints. Option B. Immediately implement a blanket policy of reducing store hours to alleviate pressure on staff and potentially reduce complaint volume. Option C. Initiate a detailed analysis of the complaint data to identify specific patterns, common themes, and potential root causes across affected locations, and then develop targeted corrective actions. Option D. Advise staff to simply apologize to customers and offer minor discounts on future purchases without investigating the underlying issues. The correct answer is C. Initiate a detailed analysis of the complaint data to identify specific patterns, common themes, and potential root causes across affected locations, and then develop targeted corrective actions. Explanation. This scenario presents a challenge in balancing operational efficiency with regulatory compliance, specifically concerning the handling of customer complaints. Alimentation Couche starred as a retail entity must adhere to consumer protection laws and internal policies designed to ensure fair treatment of customers. The professional challenge lies in identifying and addressing a systemic issue that could lead to customer dissatisfaction and potential regulatory scrutiny, while also considering the practicalities of resource allocation. The correct approach involves a proactive and systematic investigation into the root cause of the increased complaint volume. This demonstrates best professional practice by prioritizing customer well-being and adherence to regulatory frameworks that mandate fair complaint resolution. By analyzing the data, identifying patterns, and implementing corrective actions, the company upholds its ethical obligations and minimizes the risk of future noncompliance. This aligns with principles of good corporate governance and customer service excellence, which are often implicitly or explicitly part of hiring assessments for roles involving customer interaction or operational oversight. An incorrect approach would be to dismiss the increase in complaints as mere statistical noise or to implement superficial solutions without understanding the underlying problem. This failure to investigate thoroughly could lead to continued customer dissatisfaction, reputational damage, and potential violations of consumer protection regulations that require businesses to have mechanisms for addressing customer grievances effectively. For instance, if specific product quality issues or service delivery failures are the cause, ignoring them would be a breach of the implied contract with the customer and could contravene regulations related to product safety or service standards. Another incorrect approach might be to focus solely on individual complaint resolution without addressing systemic issues, which is inefficient and fails to prevent recurrence, potentially violating regulations that expect businesses to have robust complaint handling systems. Professionals should approach such situations by first acknowledging the data and its potential implications. A structured problem-solving framework, such as a root cause analysis, should be employed. This involves gathering more information, analyzing trends, identifying contributing factors, and developing targeted solutions. Collaboration with relevant departments, e.g., operations, quality control, customer service, is crucial. The decision-making process should prioritize customer satisfaction, regulatory compliance, and long-term operational integrity over short-term cost savings or expediency.